Hello and welcome to IAMC Radio and Podcast.
Great to be here.
Today, we're looking at the top news headlines for May 2nd. We've got quite a mix: international stuff, tech, legal battles.
Yeah, a lot happening. Where do we start?
Let's begin with U.S. President Trump and Canada's new Prime Minister, Carney. They have a visit coming up.
Right, and Trump called Carney very nice, which is interesting given their history.
Definitely. There was all that tension before, remember? Tariffs, even some talk about annexation suggestions.
No, that didn't go over well. And Carney actually won partly by saying he'd stand up to Trump, replacing Trudeau.
Yet Trump's predicting a positive relationship now. Says Carney offered to make a deal.
Trump also, mused about which Canadian party disliked him more. Classic Trump diplomacy, perhaps.
We'll see how that visit goes. Okay, moving across the Atlantic now. Big news about TikTok.
Ah, yes, the EU fine, $530 million. That's a huge number.
It is. Ireland's Data Protection Commission, the DPC, handed it down after a long investigation, like 4 years.
And the core issue was data transfers to China, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The concern is European user data potentially being accessed by Chinese authorities.
Because of China's own laws, espionage, cybersecurity, that sort of thing.
Precisely. The DPC found TikTok didn't guarantee protection against that.
So what happens now? TikTok just pays up.
Well, they have to stop the data transfers to China within 6 months, unless they can prove they've got equivalent protection set up.
Equivalent protection within Europe, presumably.
Yes, and it also came out that TikTok had actually stored some European data in China before.
Yeah.
Despite saying they didn't. They deleted it later, apparently.
Wow. So not a great look. Are they fighting this?
They plan to appeal, yeah. They're pointing to this thing called Project Clover, hosting data in Ireland and Norway.
But the worry remains, doesn't it? Both in Europe and the US about Chinese government access. Several EU countries have already banned it on government phones.
Right, and the DPC wasn't happy with TikTok's privacy policy clarity either, or some info they got during the investigation. Might be more action coming.
Okay, another legal battle. This time UK versus EU post-Brexit. Fishing rights.
That's the one. The Permanent Court for Arbitration in The Hague ruled against the UK.
What was the specific fish? I remember it was something small.
Sand eels. Tiny little things, but apparently vital for the North Sea ecosystem. This case is seen as a kind of bellwether for other Brexit disputes.
So the court said the UK breached the trade deal by not giving the EU full access for sand eel fishing.
Essentially, yes. The UK's argument was that they had to stop the fishing because sand eel stocks were declining.
Which impacts, what, puffins, seals?
Puffins, seals, porpoises, even cod and haddock feed on them. So an environmental argument.
But Brussels disagreed.
They argued UK's measures weren't really evidence-based or proportionate, and were discriminatory.
And who fishes most of these sand eels for the EU?
Denmark, overwhelmingly. About 96% of the quota, worth quite a bit, around 41 million pounds a year.
So this ruling could really impact future fishing negotiations, couldn't it? The current deal only guarantees EU access until mid-2026.
It certainly could. The EU welcomed the ruling, obviously, and wants the UK to say how they'll comply.
Interesting. Okay, let's move over to Nigeria now. Edo state government dethroning traditional rulers.
Yes, 3 of them. The official reasons given were upholding traditional law and improving public security.
And each case was specific, not just a general sweep.
Right. One ruler, Umoru Inusa Umoru, was removed because the position wasn't actually vacant when he was appointed. Someone else was reinstated.
Okay. What about the others?
Another, Lukman Akamoku, apparently didn't follow customary succession laws. And the third, Dr. George Oshiapi Egabor, had already been suspended due to rising insecurity kidnapping killings in his area.
So steps are being taken to find replacements legally.
That's what the government says. And connected to this security push, Governor Okpebholo issued a pretty stern warning.
About properties.
Yeah, saying any buildings linked to crimes like kidnapping, cultism, or ritual activities will be demolished.
And they've acted on that already.
Seems so. A building in Benin City, reportedly used for internet fraud, kidnapping, even holding children captive, with shrines inside, demolished.
That's intense.
And also a suspected cultist base in another part of Benin City. Had living quarters, a hall, even a moat for initiation, apparently. Also torn down.
So the governor is serious. Is there new legislation backing this up?
Yes, he signed a new anti-cultism law, giving the state the power to destroy properties linked to cultism. He stated his commitment to restoring peace.
Okay, staying with Nigeria, but linking back to the U.S., there's a development involving President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Right. The FBI and DEA are asking for more time, a 90-day extension, to release some investigative files on him.
An extension. What was the original deadline?
It was actually today, May 2nd.
Yeah.
They want until July 31st now.
And this relates to?
It's part of a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. A U.S. citizen, Aaron Greenspan, is trying to get documents about an alleged drug investigation from the 1990s that supposedly implicated Tinubu.
And the agencies tried to block releasing anything before, didn't they?
They did, using what's called a GLOMAR response, basically neither confirming nor denying files exist. But a judge shut that down and told them to search.
So now they're searching but need more time. Is Greenspan okay with the 90 days?
No, he's objecting, proposing a shorter extension. The U.S. attorney says the search is underway, but estimates it'll take about 3 months. So a disagreement on the timeline.
We'll have to watch that space. Okay, turning to a much more somber topic now, the situation in Gaza.
Yes, really tragic news. Reports indicate Israeli strikes killed at least 20 people on Friday.
This is in Gaza, which has already seen so much devastation and is under that Israeli aid blockade, right? For 2 months now.
That's correct. The military campaign there restarted back on March 18th after a ceasefire collapsed.
And these latest deaths, where did they happen?
The Civil Defense Agency mentioned 9 people killed when a home was hit in the Baroji camp in central Gaza, among the 20 total since dawn Friday.
The death toll keeps rising. What are the latest overall figures?
The Hamas-run health ministry reports at least 2,326 killed since the strikes resumed in March. That brings the total since the war began last October to over 52,400.
Just staggering numbers. The war started with that Hamas attack on Israel.
October 7th, yes, resulting in about 12,218 deaths in Israel and 251 people taken hostage. Many are still captive.
And Israel says the renewed campaign is partly about freeing those remaining hostages.
That's their stated aim, yes.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, aid delivery stopped on March 2nd.
And the warnings from aid agencies continue. Famine, collapse of services.
Constantly. The UN warns of catastrophe and looming famine, and the Red Cross said the whole humanitarian response is on the verge of total collapse. A dire situation.
Truly dire. Let's switch back to Nigeria, Edo State again, but some more positive news this time.
Yes, a bit of good news for workers there. Governor Okpebholo announced a minimum wage increase.
Oh, right, during his Mayday speech. What's the new figure?
It's gone up from N70,000 to N75,000 per month for state workers.
Okay, a noticeable bump. How did he frame it?
As appreciation for workers' contributions, a commitment to their welfare. He called it a thank you and said he expects renewed dedication in return.
And were there other initiatives mentioned, things the administration has done for workers?
Quite a few, actually. Converting casual workers, over 1,000 cleaners included, to permanent civil service jobs.
That's significant.
Also hiring 500 new teachers, reviewing the status of thousands more casual teachers, recruiting hundreds of health staff.
So investments in public services too.
Yes, and regularizing contract staff at a specialist hospital, clearing salary arrears at the state polytechnic, swearing in delayed judges.
Seems like a broad effort.
And approving health insurance for retirees, plus committing to timely salary and pension payments. The local Labor Congress chair praised the moves.
Good to hear some positive developments. Okay, elsewhere in West Africa, Sierra Leone is dealing with an mpox outbreak.
Unfortunately, yes. And cases are surging despite efforts to control it. They declared a public health emergency back in January.
How bad is the surge? What are the numbers?
Since the start of the year, they've recorded 1,140 cases and, sadly, 9 deaths. That's up quite a bit from just the previous week. Freetown has the most cases.
Are they vaccinating? I thought they received doses.
They did, from the WHO. They started vaccinating in early April, targeting kids over 12, high-risk groups, health workers. But so far, only about 2,500 people vaccinated out of 61,000 doses received.
So, work to do there. Are they trying to ramp it up?
Yes, the health ministry is pushing harder in Freetown, border areas, rural hotspots. They've also opened 4 treatment centers in the capital.
And mpox. That's the one related to smallpox, right? Used to be mainly in certain African countries.
That's right. Then it spread more widely in 2022. The WHO declared it a major public health emergency last year, their highest alert. Sierra Leone, of course, has that difficult history with Ebola, so they'll be taking this very seriously.
Absolutely. Okay, let's come back to the U.S. President Trump targeting NPR and PBS funding.
Yes, reports say he ordered funding cuts via an executive order, calling them the enemy of the people.
Wow. But wait, how much of their funding is actually federal? I thought they relied a lot on donations.
They do. Taxpayer funds are only part of their budget, channeled through the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the CPB. But Trump's order apparently directs that federal funding to stop, accusing them of bias.
Hasn't he used that enemy of the people label for media before? Except maybe Fox News?
Oh, yes. Frequently for most mainstream outlets.
But here's the thing. Didn't Congress already approve the CPB budget for the next few years?
That's the wrinkle. The budget is apparently set through 2027. So the actual scope and legality of this executive order, well, it raises questions.
Definitely. And NPR and PBS reach a lot of people, don't they?
Huge audiences.
Right.
NPR estimates over 40 million listeners weekly, PBS about 36 million viewers monthly via local stations. NPR's director said the CPD money for next year would be less than 5% of their budget, though.
Still the principle of it. And what are the reactions?
Media rights groups like RSF are warning about deteriorating press freedom. PBS put out a statement condemning it, highlighting their bipartisan support and the value of their programs, especially for kids.
A controversial move, for sure. Okay, one last headline for today. Mayday protests across the U.S.
Yes, large demonstrations reported on Thursday, largely opposing President Trump and his administration's policies.
Were they widespread?
Organizers aimed for that, using this 5501, branding 50 demos, all states, one cause. Events reportedly happened in over 1,000 locations. Big cities like New York, Chicago, Seattle, but also smaller towns.
And what was the focus in D.C.?
Activists set up tents on the National Mall, calling for impeachment, talking about Democratic backsliding.
And the overall theme, what was the message from organizers?
Generally framed as pushing back against a government they see as controlled by the super wealthy.
Was there union involvement? Mayday is International Workers' Day, after all.
Absolutely. The AFL-CIO held a big rally in Philly with Bernie Sanders. The theme was, for the workers, not the billionaires. They specifically called out corporate influence, even mentioning Elon Musk's role in a White House efficiency department.
Interesting. And were there related protests internationally?
Yes, solidarity protests reported in places like France and the Philippines. It seems protesters were also voicing some concern about the response from Democrats here, wanting more grassroots action.
So a significant day of protest across the country.
It seems so. And that wraps up our main headlines for today.
A lot to take in, as always.
Indeed. Thank you for listening to today's top news headlines on IMC Radio and Podcast.